Anyone wishing to address the Recreation Commission tonight should fill out a card found at the back of the room and get it to a staff member as soon as possible in the meeting. Please stand and join us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, please? Thank you.
Commissioner Peruano.
Here?
Commissioner Arroyo.
Here.
Did I say that right?
Yes, you said it perfectly well. Thank you.
Vice Chair Pastor.
Here.
Chair Kelly.
Here.
Everybody's here.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'd like to enter a
Can I get
motion
copy?
to
Did you
approve the
not
agenda.
get the email?
I didn't think I would have to print it out.
Okay, do you have a copy of the agenda by any chance?
Oh, yes. Did she not, you did not get?
She didn't
Thank you, sir.
realize she was going to need it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
And-
They save paper here.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Noted, noted.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So move.
I like, do you want to take a minute to peek at it?
I read it
You
online.
read it online. Okay, I'd like to
Approved.
second that motion then.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 26th?
Like to make a
Or
mo-
any corrections?
I don't have any corrections. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
It's a tie.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved as written. Now we are on to the administration of the oath of office to our newest commissioner, Virilio Sasan. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Thank you.
Vihirio.
Virilio.
Oh, we'll get it.
Okay, and you will be sworn in this evening by the Honorable Annette Hapona. Thank you.
And if you raise your right hand, please. So I'm going to ask you to repeat your name, of course, and then follow me with the words if you can, if you like, all right? So I state your name.
I, Virgilio Sison,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution
that I will defend and support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without any mental purpose, reservation, purpose, and
Of evasion.
of evasion. Yes.
And that I will well and faithfully
That I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For a signature right there, please.
Thank you, Annette.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And please join us up here.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, thank you.
It looks like Joseph needs a couple of minutes to get caught up here, so we'll just reverse things a little bit. Maybe you'll tell us a little bit about yourself now, as opposed to the end of the meeting while we're waiting for Joseph.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's all right with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very happy to meet you.
Your mic, turn the little gray button.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, so good evening, everybody, and nice to meet you. Yes, I went through a lot of places before I settled here. I came from the Philippines as in high school, graduated there, went to Odessa Junior College as a scholar athlete in tennis,
Oh,
and then went to Oklahoma City University, and then moved to Europe, turned professional, and lived in Switzerland for 20 years. Then moved back to Asia, where I was involved in the Davis Cup competition, coaching the team, and then built and assisted in developing facilities over there, and programmed a lot of tennis tennis programs. Served as vice president of the Philippine Tennis Association, and then we made a sport tourism project from 2002. It's still running now. And then we migrated here 2007 to California, and now I'm here in Daly City.
Wonderful. Welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
And if you'd have been here a couple meetings ago, we had some ladies talking about the tennis courts over in Westlake. So I'm sure as they're listening and watching, they may just reel you in on this.
Yes.
So this will
yes.
be very interesting.
Yeah, well, the beauty about the tennis is actually when you talk about public parks and libraries, Dwight Davis, the donor of the Davis Cup, of the competition, a worldwide competition that has now grown to over 100-something. He was the Public Parks Commissioner in 1912. And then he was a tennis player, and it was actually the tennis that spearheaded the developments of all the municipal parks. So in St. Louis, and then I'm a product of that, because I was a member of a club where Dwight Davis himself founded the Philippine Colombian Association. And then he became our Governor General when we were under the colonial thing in 1939. And they built the first public facility. Babe Ruth came in and then built a lot of libraries with the tennis courts. And so I was a product of that. That's why I got a scholarship.
Oh, nice.
And then the best thing for me was to have been in St. Louis himself, where he founded it. And I won the singles championships in 1977.
Nice.
So I was a product and coming back in. So I figured, I was talking to Mike, and I think I also, Mr. Canepa, about my children. And something. I said the public parks are needing some invigoration.
Right.
And maybe if there's anything I could do and, bring in some educational materials. Well, let's see what I can help, and hopefully I could maybe get that passion here and
Get the tennis going.
yeah, maybe if depending on the needs of our bosses, what the demands are, right?
We'll
So-
have to talk about it one of these days. Joseph knows all about what's going on with the tennis courts,
And I will
right?
say, I misspoke at our meeting 2 meetings ago, because when we had these preliminary discussions about the capital budget, tennis courts, the improvements for Westlake and Gellert
Right.
were in that list.
Right.
I hear that they didn't make the final list, so
Okay.
So-
stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We may
Mr.
need you
Curran,
more.
you have a budget
Oh,
update for us,
I do,
commissioners?
as a matter of fact. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Recreation Commission. Some of you may have seen the presentation on May 16th. We were part of the overview for the City Council, reviewing the budget for the upcoming fiscal years 2017 and 2018. As you all know, we're the Department of Library and Recreation Services, so this is an abbreviated presentation of that some of you may have seen. And we can dive into some of the details, especially for our newest members. We have adopted a department mission statement a while ago, and that is serving our neighborhoods and empowering generations by bringing people together to foster community, lifelong learning, and healthy lifestyles.
So that's for the entire department?
Just for the Department of
Okay.
Library and Recreation, yes. We don't have a separate.
No, that's good.
This org chart that is almost indecipherable on the screen, but that depicts the structure of the organization. We're 3 divisions: library services with 4 libraries serving Daly City, administration, and then recreation services. If there's any question about the structure, and we'll get into that in a little bit, to talk about some of the changes. We always like to toot our own horns at this interval every 2 years when we're reviewing the forthcoming budget, we like to reflect back on what it is that we did well. And, you know, one of the big accomplishments in the last 2 years was launching the iPlay website, the new online registration portal that we started. And we're finding, depending on what type of class, somewhere between 70 and 75% of our registrants are now going online. And we'll touch on that in a little bit too, but it's an important feature since we are shrinking as a department, especially on administration. And I like to always include numbers because sometimes it's a little overwhelming if you take a break and you think about what we do. And just at the Cafe Dolger, prepared over 37,000 meals last fiscal year. And they weren't all consumed at Cafe Dolger every day, Monday through Friday when those meals are prepared. About 150, give or take, are served at Cafe Dolger, and another 60 or so are delivered and eaten at the Lincoln Park Community Center. So overall, 37,000 meals is pretty impressive. It's, I think, what Original Joe's is doing on an average day now, but that's what we do in a year. But we're just serving one lunch, one menu item a day, 5 days a week.
Now, these meals are on a donation basis, or are they free?
You know, the Congregate Nutrition Program is a grant base from the county, and seniors over 60 or seniors with disabilities can eat for free. There's a sliding scale. Non-seniors pay full freight, which I believe is $7.50 a meal now. But others can eat free or what they can afford, usually in the $4 to $5 range.
That's very reasonable.
And I know you just heard Edgardo, but as a refresher, we had almost 1,000 kids, 913 children participated in our youth basketball league this year, which is not too shabby. So keeping a lot of kids busy after school. And speaking of after school, now just to clarify, I have 2,849 children enrolled. So that's the total number of enrollments. They enroll on a monthly period, so some of those kids are double, triple, quadruple counted. But overall, you know, the total enrollments were 2,849. And then on the summer youth recreation program, you know, 4 sites, 2,733 kids enrolled last year. And I expect, even with the increased rate this year, we will meet or exceed that because it is still the best deal going.
Do we have a capacity on that?
We do, and it's the capacity is limited by our ability to keep a good staff ratio and also the physical space we have. We sort of burst at the seams at Westmore Park because the clubhouse is so tiny there. And then at Gellert, literally the kids spend a lot of the day outdoors at Gellert because there's other programs going on in the clubhouse. And we can accommodate about 140 or so at Westlake, and then smaller numbers at Hillside and Marchbank.
Through the chair, during the year, the numbers sound doable. The numbers do grow when the summertime comes. But do you see the numbers growing? I'm saying with regards to the children coming, or are they on different different programs, the acting program?
And that's an interesting
swimming.
question because the school sites, you know, their enrollees, generally speaking, are the kids at that school. Here we get kids from all over the place at these different sites. So there are more kids in one place in any given day, I think, in the summer than there would be in the after-school program. But overall, obviously a lot of kids in the after-school program too.
Yeah, totally. And the other question was, I remember when we started charging a certain amount, which is still extremely reasonable. And you're going, when we make the budget, when you increase the cost, do you guys, you were saying you were expecting that to continue to rise even though the cost is going up?
Right. And we did, if you recall, we talked about it a few months ago, the fees for this coming summer went up. At a glance, it seemed to go up quite a bit from last summer. But one of the complaints or criticisms we heard last year is there was a base fee
Yeah.
per week, and then there were lots of add-ons for different activities during the week.
Well, we eliminated the.
And especially if you were registering online, it meant using the drop-down menu and adding all these things to your cart. It got very confusing. So we tried to repackage it so those activities are included in registration. So if you look at it that way, the increase is almost non-existent. It's almost about the same.
And it makes it so that all the children can participate.
Right,
You don't
so
have someone
there's not a dividing
sitting over
line
there
between-
saying, my mom
exactly,
didn't buy
which was
that
an
this
issue.
week, yeah.
Or I'm supposed to be there, why?
Yes.
Yeah,
What's not included in the base fee this year are the big trips.
the trips, yeah.
The A's game or the Tech Museum, those kinds of things.
So I have a question. So is it all at the cost recovery? Are you making an income?
We are not doing full cost recovery. We've got a ways to go, and if you did watch the presentation last week, that was something the council has expressed interest in. Traditionally, recreation subsidies for youth and senior programs was acceptable. With the budget on the citywide basis tightening as much as it has now, we will be revisiting this after the summer ends to see how we did, but this is not full cost recovery. We're probably subsidizing, I would, if I had to venture a guess, and you can challenge me on this in a few months, I would say probably in the neighborhood of about 20%. So we at the council's direction, we'll certainly look at that closely, and we may come back in the wintertime to readjust that fee a little bit.
I'm sorry, is it 20% that the city's helping, or
Yes.
is, okay,
20%
just double checking, that's not as
Sorry,
bad as
yeah,
it could be
sorry.
the other way.
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
Well, there should be some city subsidy on it. It's just a matter of how much, you know.
Well, 20%, it's,
And we went from a full city.
that's what I was going to
subsidy
say,
not very long ago.
to 80% covered.
I want to say, was it 2009 or
It's
thereabouts?
5 years ago?
Oh, 2011.
Yeah.
Prior to that, there were summer youth programs at a whole bunch of sites, and they were free and very staff intensive to have. But because there were so many staff too, I would argue they weren't the best trained staff. It was almost summer babysitting. A lot more structure, a lot more training, a lot more scrutinizing of the staff that we bring on board for the summer than in past years.
So forgive me, I'll seek a clarification on what the city council did say. So did they push back on wanting more subsidies or
Less-
less?
less subsidy.
Less, okay.
Higher fees, less subsidy.
Yeah.
And we did hear, I would say, so far, probably a half dozen or so parents have noticed the increase and have asked why. And we do, just a reminder too, we do have a scholarship that can be used one time per season. And we do have people that take advantage of that. And basically, it's if you qualify for food stamps, we use the same criteria.
Yeah.
So we do have people that take us up on that. And we've also referred, if you happen to have a child who will be entering kindergarten or entering the first grade within the Jefferson Elementary School District, there is an absolutely 100% free program, Inspiring Summers, that they are offering through the county as part of the Summer Learning Initiative, paid for by Measure A. And if you're familiar with the Big Lift, I think, did we do a presentation on the Big Lift? Maybe. Anyway, the Big Lift.
I think so.
For those of you who may not know about the Big Lift initiative, it's a countywide effort to bring children up to grade reading level by third grade. And what we found, and what people who look into these things have found, not me, even though San Mateo County is one of the wealthiest counties on the planet, we have an issue with children not learning to read proficiently by third grade. And what the long-term studies have demonstrated is that if children who don't reach reading proficiency by the third grade never catch up. They spend the rest of their academic life struggling to keep up with their class, and they never quite get there. So there's a very intense effort in this county right now to try and rectify that. And I'm going to go off the top of my head. I want to say only about 48% of San Mateo County third graders are at third grade reading level, which means a whole heck of a lot of them are not quite there yet.
Yeah.
All right, where
Okay,
was I?
back to your, sorry.
Still here, all right. Yeah, we definitely are going to try and keep doing the good things we do. You know, we offer affordable leisure and recreation programs, and we're always exploring new partnerships to see if we can improve in the way we deliver services and programs to the community. And that's an interesting bottom line, because I did not, that's straight from the presentation of the council. We will continue to review what subsidies are being made and to keep those under control across the board. So now the hard part. We, as a department, were challenged initially with a target reduction number of $1.1 million for the coming fiscal year, which is a huge number for about a $10 million operating budget. We went through many iterations in looking at ways that we could cut costs from the Department of Library and Recreation Services. To reach a number anywhere near $1 million, let alone the target number, we could not find a way to do that without closing facilities. A lot of our fixed charges, the charges that are beyond our department's control, things like building maintenance, custodial, lights and computers and telephones. Just on the building maintenance side, we pay over $1 million a year out of our, $1 million of our $10 million budget go to those kinds of things. So closing buildings would help us get there by saving money in building maintenance. And for example, the cost of maintaining War Memorial for a fiscal year is about $467,000. It's a lot of money. I'm here to say that that is not the path we ultimately went down. We looked at other ways that we can trim. And I won't get into the library stuff right now, but in recreation specifically, we did eliminate a couple of positions. And it's on the next slide. But because our shrinking administrative staff, which not very long ago was 8 full-time administrators, we're going to be down to 3. With all of, doing the business functions, payroll, paying bills, and those sorts of things, it's difficult to balance the customer service part. And so what we are proposing, starting next fiscal year, would be to close the administrative offices 1 day a week. Probably on Monday, possibly on Friday. We're still going back and forth on that, so that the staff that's there can focus on those admin tasks, so that they're free to serve the public the other 4 days a week. So even though the office would be closed to the public, but we would be behind the scenes doing administrative tasks. Another big change.
Question for you on that. A while back, the city closed or had fewer employees rotating 4-day week. And there were a lot of complaints about the accessibility of stuff. So do you really get that much out of it by closing a full day versus maybe closing Monday morning and Friday afternoon?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's a fair question. If no one ever called in sick, if no one ever took vacation, I would say that would be totally right. So now with 3 people, and these are all veteran employees. None of them so they've accrued a lot of vacation. So they're entitled to their vacation, and we all get sick, and it gets really complicated. I mean, it's even more complicated on the library side, to be honest.
No, I understand.
But to shrink down, and people need to go to the bathroom, they need their breaks and their lunches. So it might work, but
It wouldn't be manageable.
it wouldn't be ideal.
Okay.
So.
Just curious.
And this is brand new territory for us, so we'll definitely see how it's going. We had talked about maybe, of all the transactions we do, and we do a lot of them every day, facility reservations take, I'm looking
They
at
do.
some.
They
But it
take,
is
They
an
take,
income.
even if you've done it a million times.
no, I mean, the
Um,
application has got a lot of questions on it, and you can't pre-fill it out. You have to come in and stand at the counter and fill it out, which takes a staff person's time if you have any questions, if you've not done it before, and they can't be doing anything else. So I've been in there filling out an application, and the phone will be ringing, and it's like, just go answer the phone. I'll be fine. I can wait. But I never expect to get out of there in less than half an hour.
And you're sort of the exception in that you've done this routine many times. the vast majority of people coming in to rent a facility for a baby shower or a swimming party, it's their first time, they've never been in the building, they don't know the process, they're sort of taken back by the rules. The alcohol rules are kind of goofy, and maybe that's something we can talk about at another meeting. But there's insurance requirements and different fee structures, and nonprofit, and if
Deposits
you are a
and, yeah.
nonprofit, you got to prove that you're nonprofit. We are. So those transactions, a half hour is probably about average. And we've scrutinized the heck out of ways to make that more efficient, including going online. But the problem is, there's so much confusion, and we really want to reiterate the important rules and go over them and make sure, and I'll tell you, even doing that on a weekly basis, people, and I'll give you an example. One of the rules is, we don't allow change. 2 weeks prior, you have to be paid in full, and there's no more changes. I would say about half of the people that make a facility reservation change it a couple times before the date comes. And a lot of them want to change it 2 days before, or they now want to add they're going to serve beer where they did. Anyway, so we want to make sure that everybody understands that, and it's hard to do that in an online, maybe you click that you agree without reading it. We make sure they read it and they initial every one of those rules for those reasons. So if there was a safe way to automate it, we would love it, but there's just too
Well,
many
as
instances.
far as I know, the other cities in the county are not automated for facility rentals either, because they have the same,
And we checked around,
Yeah.
and some cities, like South San Francisco, you have to have an appointment to go in
Yeah.
to make a reservation. A lot of cities require full payment 30 days before your event. We have frequently people right up against that 2-week window to make the reservation, let alone pay. And I can't tell you how, the percentage of people that we have to badger to get that final payment. Frequently, we have final payments after the deadline, which is very staff-intensive too,
Staff-intensive,
because
yeah.
you're trying
Making
to
the
get all
phone calls.
anyway. Well, that was a lot of talking on one item. So
sorry.
the activity guide that hopefully you all know and are familiar with, it's not going away necessarily, but we are going to drastically cut back on the number that we print. And we're not going to mail them to every single postal customer in Daly City like we do now. What we're going to do initially is we'll send postcards to alert people that they're ready, and they can pick them up at our libraries or our admin offices or community centers. Postage costs a lot of money. And the reality is, we've got 5 people who are very engaged in the community here, and I'm sure you treasure that. Like, I used to look forward to the Sears catalog around Christmas time. But, as much as we like to flatter ourselves, a certain percentage of those go from the mailbox to the recycle bin. So we want to make sure we're not wasting the resources or spending a lot of money on postage for those that go straight to the recycle bin. For those that need them, we'll provide them, absolutely. And we are finding, as I mentioned earlier, more and more people are finding their way online. And in fact, I thought this was such a cutting edge thing. Well, someone was at one of those California Parks and Recreation group meetings last week, and it's a trend.
Yeah.
Cities are, and it's funny, up until now, you go, especially if you find a city about the same size, the activity guide that we produce is almost identical in structure and nature up and down the state of California. So we will continue to produce it. We will continue to print probably 10,000. I think 10,000 is our target versus 36,000.
Oh,
What
yeah.
about the advertising for it?
We are going to let our advertisers know that we are not mailing them to as many homes, and hopefully they're going to advertise because they support the city of Daly City. We'll see. That may affect our revenue, but our revenue doesn't offset the cost of it. None.
No, have you considered an email?
Yes, we do.
When
And that's
it's
one.
ready and online and we can go and look at it?
Yes, and that's one of the great features of the iPlay website is everyone who has an account has an email address that we can email, and we can email related to the class that they're in, or we can do a broad email.
So then, those of us who, I not used iPlay to set up, but you could go in and set up an account there to get your email on that list?
You could. And we don't, it's not something, again, because of the shrinking staff, it's not something we take advantage of a lot. But I'm sure, like for the summer youth program, we'll send out little reminders to the parents, little things like, make sure the kid has water and sunscreen, and that sort of thing.
I also just wanted to say the concerns about advertisers going away. You could possibly put them on the website or on that link where where your activity guide is going to be. And I just wanted to find out now. Of course, there's a population that wouldn't be internet savvy. So what will happen is they'll get the postcard, then they'll have to come to where? To the library or?
They can request one be mailed to them,
Ah.
or they can come. It's a lot cheaper to mail one than it is to mail 36,000. But we're hoping people will go online to look for it, or they'll stop by. Our power users that are around the facilities that they would be taking classes at, will have the guides there to pick up.
Will they be in the libraries too?
Absolutely.
City clerk's office, same as the
Sure.
usual stuff?
Yeah, they'll be around City
Yeah.
Hall, the community centers.
Okay.
So they'll be
Libraries.
accessible.
Okay, so another big change is, Daly City has a long history of being a great youth baseball program, and we are going forward eliminating the AA and AAA youth baseball, and those are the older kids, and there is a cost savings there, but there's a practical part to that too. For whatever reason, and it could be because we have a basketball crazy town right now, the participation at the T-ball level is huge. Start off kindergarten, first grade, second grade. As they get older, the numbers plummet. By the time the kids are in, say, fourth, fifth grade, we're not getting enough registration to really have a viable league. So what happens is you have 4 teams and they just play each other for the whole season. So I think part of that is there are so many new options for kids that really want to play. There are AAU teams, there are travel teams, there are club teams. And that really goes for every sport now. That is a new phenomenon that was not here 10 years ago. But you name a sport, and there's a travel team based in Daly City.
Yes, Joseph, I just wanted to share this sort of trend also in Europe that from 5 to about 12, they go into a lot of team sports, soccer, baseball, and then by the time they get to the 13 to 17, they take on the individual sports already. So that's why you have,
Perhaps?
yes, tennis, and then some go into
Golf.
Golf or whatever. But you're right about that. So that I agree with that. The youth.
And
when
it
we-
is a
that
new trend,
after
because
12,
we used
yeah.
to have a full league
Yeah.
all the way up.
Yeah.
And, if former Commissioner Tom Letta was here, he would.
Yes.
He's a baseball guy.
Yeah.
Although he hopes that feeds into his, because he coaches at City College.
Probably the net number of kids playing baseball at that age is probably unchanged. They're just
Going
going,
to other
Yeah.
places.
paying a lot more money than they would pay to play in our league.
Yeah.
But to get on
Uh-huh.
these travel teams, and then,
Yeah.
they end up in places like Stockton and Visalia and Reno on
Hopefully-
Daly City-based travel teams.
And hopefully scholarships for
Yeah.
college.
The developmental approach is actually that the all-around sports from 5 to 15 is like team sports. Then from 14 they go individually. Actually, that's the trend, and that's where we need to sort of focus on the swimming and golf, whatever golf.
Absolutely,
And then so
You notice we're not,
So, yeah.
we're not touching swimming. Just as a side note,
yeah.
because you're so busy.
all of the things we do, our swim program is
Yes.
the best in
You-
cost recovery.
Yeah.
We're running at capacity in most of our swim classes, and many of them
Yeah.
fill up within 30 seconds of when they open. It's crazy.
My kids go to it at Germano Pool. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, didn't we talk at 1.2 about the flag football a while back?
Yes, flag football is another one of those things that we have seen the participation drop quite a bit from year to year. And so we're proposing to eliminate that. There would be a little bit of savings there too. And again, the kids that really want to play, there's this new league that sprung up in San Francisco that is heavily recruiting Daly City kids. And in fact, I had people coming in last year with very slick-looking postcards about this league. They mistakenly thought it was our league, and they had all these questions. And I looked at it and said, this isn't us, but it's a San Francisco-based league. It's a pay, you know, it's a money-making thing.
Wow.
And they rent our fields,
Yeah,
and a lot of fields in San Francisco, so,
and it's flag.
yes.
And people are paying for their kids to go to this, and it's not a few hundred, it's a lot of
And I
money.
also think that part of the contribution to that is the concussion thing too. People are
Yeah,
concerned about
I think
that,
that,
and I think that their parents are getting their
Little bit
kids
more.
involved in flag before they're getting them involved in the bang your head.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm going to hit you on the last one. I was concerned when I saw the Showcase League basketball.
Showcase League was around for 31 years. Now,
Yeah.
if you recall, last year, it ended up not going because we
Mm-hmm.
did not have enough kids. The year before, the Daly City Police Athletic League chipped in a substantial amount of money, so that basically cut the fees for the players in half. Well, their policies, they don't fund programs on an ongoing basis. They do one-time investments. In fact, you know what? That wasn't Police Athletic League. I take that back. It was drug forfeiture money. And so it's restricted how they can spend that. So when we, again, you know, this isn't even full cost recovery, but the fee that we had, and I'm sorry, I don't remember it off the top of my head, kids just didn't register. And we did all the outreach in the schools, and kids are playing basketball for sure, but they didn't sign up again for 2 years in a row. So rather than keep it on the books, we're eliminating that one.
So well, I'm just saying, because I remember when my kids played, that was like huge. It was huge. My daughter, I think, and she's, well, I'm not gonna say how old my daughter is, but anyway, she still has her shirt, you know? I mean, she has, because you guys would give the T-shirts out, it was a big deal. It's sad that, because I see that our basketball's going, it's doing well. So how do we lose them?
I think it goes back to the issue about, you know, the age group. These are high school kids that are finding other outlets, you know?
They're finding that they're not going to get a college scholarship playing basketball. They gotta go find something
Yeah,
else.
I imagine there's a whole bunch of explanations, you know, case by case, but
Well,
they
but-
stayed away in large numbers the
For
last
2 years. Well, the good thing is, if we're removing that off the budget, then we're saving money, even though it's not being
And
used.
it allows us to redeploy resources. I mean, flag football took a lot of staff resources, you know, out there at night, running practices, and on the weekends doing games and stuff. So, and the scheduling, it's very labor intensive. And the same, I would say, was true for Showcase. So we're redeploying those staff into other areas that needed help.
Good.
So by, through the chair, by these reductions going into play, in terms of going into effect, that would mean those unused fields will be available to those that are paying a fee to use the fields?
You are absolutely right. And
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
we'll talk about that
Okay,
at another meeting.
all right.
And maybe after this meeting,
Sure.
chat with you a little bit. And I'm so sorry to
Some
say.
more.
The summer
more.
tennis, only the summer
Oh.
tennis. And again.
It's like going, what? I get here and you do this?
Yeah.
Join us on a timely
Um,
day.
Oh, wow.
It was another one of those, the numbers weren't great, the staff time was. And so, and this, just the summer tennis program, not the overall tennis program is still there through contract basis, but the staff-run summer tennis program will go away. And we've seen those numbers drop quite a bit, too. And then the Westlake Garden Deli, where I eat lunch way too often. For those of you not familiar with it, it's primarily a volunteer-run little deli at the Dolger Senior Center that somehow, much to my dismay, was running a pretty large deficit year to year. And we certainly don't want to eliminate it because it is a nice place for seniors to congregate, affordable sandwiches and beverages and desserts and
And
such. So-
sandwiches are good, too.
and they are
Yummy.
good. So, we've met, and we're gonna try and keep them focused on a simpler menu and not get too creative. What's happening is ordering food beyond the traditional deli offerings, and every Friday, stuff that didn't sell would end up in compost. So there was definitely some spoil, as there is, you know, with any restaurant. But we're going to try to keep that under control, scale back the menu, keep her closer on the ordering, where they're looking at different options for where the food can come from. We've always piggybacked on the same provider for the congregate nutrition program because it's all delivered, and it may be more cost effective to go out and purchase some of the stuff locally, and maybe even better quality. We'll see. Another one that I know is near, and I can see Commissioner or Vice Chair Pastor's face is not looking happy. This was probably the most emotional cut as far as long-term staff that have had a really close connection to the Teen Leadership Challenge.
Well, hasn't some of the staff come through that program?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is true. And this was 100% subsidized. And, if you're not familiar with, it was for teens from the local high schools at the Occidental CYO camp every fall. And it was a costly program. The initial program itself was very successful and has had a long history. I know Vice Chair Pastors, I don't know if any of you have had you've actually been.
Oh, yeah, several
been there.
visits up there, yeah, and one over, a couple over that
So the
space.
initial, the weekend, the retreat part of it was phenomenal. But the way it was designed was to keep these kids engaged throughout the school year and get them involved in their schools and in their community. And it was like pulling teeth after that initial, maybe, I think there were about 60 to 80 kids in that
Yeah.
the initial, I keep calling it a retreat because I can't think
Yeah.
of a better word, but getting them back and keeping them engaged was not very successful. And I'm talking, there were meetings where we had a handful of kids show up, sometimes none. They canceled some of their other activities from the year because we just couldn't get the school kids. And who knows, it's different being a teen in
Right.
2016 than it was in 1990. There's more distractions and other life commitments, but it was a lot of money benefiting a fairly small group of kids that didn't really achieve its intended goals. That they used to be quite successful year round. These kids were engaged in the community, and they would come together, representatives from the different high schools, and so that one is going away too.
Through the chair, what kind of budget was it drawing from, what kind of cost was it drawing from the?
That was running between $17,000 and $20,000 for the big event.
And that would be transportation and the use of the
Transportation,
facilities.
food, and lodging.
Yeah.
The CYO retreat, I think, was over 10,000 alone just for that.
Yeah.
And then for the facility up there was additional 10,000?
No, that was for that facility.
okay.
It was, again, I'm going from memory, but I
Yeah.
want to say it was right about 17.
Yeah, yeah, because over the years, I know that in the early going, it was reaching at-risk youngsters that were found their way through the program to become leaders in the
Right.
community, and then it reached folks from continuation high schools to find some identity out there, and I remember a few instances where they came in and showed their presentations
Absolutely.
here in front of us of the great work that they put together. But, yeah, I'm sorry to see it part of the chopping block, but maybe if there's some benefactors out there listening tonight that would want to continue a
Write a
good work here.
$20,000 check to save it?
Yeah,
Or to propose something that maybe doesn't involve an overnight, but an all-day-long
Retreat somewhere here.
retreat. Those can be very successful too if they're
Yeah.
done correctly. So, there's always that possibility, I
Right.
would hope, because I think these kinds of things are great, because we don't offer a
Right.
whole lot for the teenagers here.
right.
And one of the key components to that too are the teachers in the high schools. And, we had a solid base of teachers that were committed to it a long time. Well, as they retired and moved on,
Mhm.
it was more difficult to attract new teachers.
Right.
So, that's definitely not the overriding problem, but
Right.
it was a consideration too, is that the participation from the schools and the administrations and the teachers is not what it was,
The whole
20
focus for
years ago.
teachers has changed anyway. so.
Yeah.
So through the chair, I was just going to say was when my kids were in high school, they had their retreats in high school, at the high schools, right? And it's something that, sometimes they bring things up, like fun parts of school was the retreats, junior year, senior year. And I wondered if, because it's what exactly what Jack and Denise were saying, is that reaching the at-risk students, the ones that needed help, losing that opportunity, I wondered if the idea, do they do something like this in some of the high schools? The public high schools?
I am not aware of that.
I mean, my kids went to Catholic school, but they did do that, and it was really the highlight of their junior, senior years is the retreat.
I'm not aware of,
It
I've not heard any of the kids that volunteer with me talk about anything like that in high school.
So I'm just, would
No,
be
and-
nice
and,
to
you know,
see.
Resource officers from the police department used to be very engaged in it
Yes.
too, and,
Right.
that's
It's
changed
all
over the
changing
years.
too,
so.
so.
You're losing the support, is what you're saying, and the
I'm- I'm-
guidance.
It's a different world in 2016 than it was when this program was in its heyday.
Yeah.
I don't want to, lay blame on any component of it. It's just everything is a little bit different, and if there is a benefactor out there, maybe we'll revisit
Yeah.
it, and maybe it needs
Joseph
to
can be
be,
reached at 650.
and maybe, if nothing else, maybe, we hit the pause button and see, what is the most relevant
Yeah.
type of program? Maybe an in-school or some neutral
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
We've talked about having a community camp out at Westlake Park as long as I've been, we haven't pulled that one off yet either, but, we can get the kids together and work as team, and it's all about team building and trust building and,
Right.
and communicating.
Joseph, to Vice Chair Jack's point, I do run a teen leadership program in San Francisco. It's a college prep program that has elements of leadership in it, and we do get grants for it. However, we also do engage local businesses in the neighborhood to be benefactors. So I was going to ask, just not for this program, but for the entire recreation program menu, is there sufficient engagement with local businesses so that they can?
And this is a subject, I'm not exaggerating, that probably comes up every single day, including it came up today. The difference between Daly City and San Francisco and every other city to the south of us, we don't have a very strong corporate presence here. We don't have Genentech, we don't have Oracle, we don't have Facebook or YouTube.
Or Lyft.
or Visa or Wells Fargo. So we do have relationships with corporate partners, and I'll name names because it's the usual suspects give a little bit to just about every big thing we do. Ceremony Shopping Center is a great partner. First National Bank, Daly City Business from day one is a great partner. Kaiser sometimes, PG&E sometimes, Wells Fargo.
Comcast never.
Duggins?
Oh, yes, Duggins, absolutely.
City Host Lions.
Westlake Village Apartments and the Daly City Host Lions, in a similar point in history, one of the programs that was being eliminated, just for a historical point of reference, was our annual spring thing. What do we call it? The
Fun
spring,
Day.
Egg hunt, fun day.
spring fun day.
That was why I knew how many years ago it was, because
Oh,
we
that was
just
the
did
same
it for the
time.
fifth time.
So that was a program that was just like this. It was being eliminated in the Daly City Host Lions, which Chair Kelly happens to be a member of.
And
And then Councilmember Carol Klatt said, well, maybe we can help. And ever since then, what year was that, 2011?
5 years
That
ago.
program is being completely underwritten by the Daly City Host Lions, and we're very appreciative.
And we had so many children this last year, this last springtime. We wasn't it? It was amazing.
It's amazing, but the nice part about when you can get service organizations and community groups in it, the joy that you get out of it and the fun that the kids have makes it worthwhile. But Daly City historically has been a bedroom community, and that is, about 90% of the reason that we're in the budget issues that
Yeah,
we're in right
that's
now is because
absolutely the truth.
there's no revenue coming in, and so it just makes it all that much more difficult to get corporate sponsorship for anything, whether you're a nonprofit or the city here. It's very, very difficult to do fundraising here.
And I'm sure I left some out, and one that comes to mind is Republic Services. our
Oh,
garbage
absolutely,
company.
Allied.
Very, very generous over the years, and I'm sure there's others that
San Mateo Credit Union,
credit unions helped out.
Classic.
I'm sure
But
the
the
people
other
who
thing is
are.
we are a community with lots of nonprofit groups, and we're all fishing in that same pond. And so where our corporate partners may help us, they're spread so thin because they are helping everybody.
And it's sometimes easier, like for us as the Daly City Host Lions, to go out to the smaller businesses and ask them for a little bit because we're a smaller organization, so they don't feel as bad that they can't give the big money. So there's a lot of those kinds of little opportunities for us too.
Trader Joe's is another one.
Trader Joe's is great.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go on and on. We don't want to
But-
leave
but-
anybody
but-
out.
But no one's writing the $20,000 check.
Yeah, it's all very small.
So hopefully the real estate companies that are planning to build here, if there are,
They're spending-
will be engaged,
Yeah.
you know, in development agreements with local community. After all, they are supposed to serve families, children.
They're all very willing to be engaged until their projects are approved, and then you can't get them on the phone anymore.
Absolutely, but then, well, there is a way to do this. So,
Well, just lastly, through the chair, since we're talking about ideas on attaining some dollars and cents, but I always see when I go through the community, adopt the freeway, adopt this or adopt that.
Yeah.
Though if you're a local business or you're a large business and you do have employees living here, but you don't have your address here in Daly City, maybe you can think of, consider us as adopting a program here.
There you go.
Adopting Daly City as your second partner in this greater community of San Mateo County to help us help the kids. And that's our future leaders here in the community, and hopefully future leaders in your company down the road. And but think of us in terms of adopting another city, other than the ones that you have your addresses at. So that's all I have to say.
No, that's a good
Nicely
idea.
done.
Yeah. So now we've distracted you from your,
Right, and I'll say this is taking a lot longer than it did to do the whole department overview with the
Sorry,
city
we
council.
shouldn't
But
be
you're a
asking you
more
all these-
engaged audience.
We're sorry.
No, that's no need to apologize. All right, so we briefly talked about personnel. So there are some personnel reductions. Currently, there are 2 account clerk 2 positions within our administrative office. That will be reduced to 1. And we have 1 other full-time position that's being eliminated. It's a senior center program assistant. And then we will have salary savings, at least in the coming fiscal year. One of our recreation program supervisors is on an extended unpaid leave of absence, so we are having some salary savings that may very well carry forward. We'll know about this time next year, the status of that. So, yes, it was not fun having
Cutting.
personnel reductions. And as far as I know, I was the only department head in the city that had to give some layoff notices in the last week. We're talking about reductions across the city, but a lot of the other departments are achieving that through attrition and retirements. I had actual hard layoffs
Yeah.
to do.
I'm sorry you had to
That
do
is-
that.
that
It's
is
very
not
difficult.
fun, I will
No,
tell
it's
you.
very
It's
difficult.
not
Through the chair, I just was going to, so after all this, and you did the numbers, how much was the savings?
Well, funny you should say that, because, look at that. I will say, these numbers were changing right up, literally up until we presented to the city council. So a lot of these numbers were generated not by me, but from our finance department. So they're there in black and white, and I see Jack writing them down. I wouldn't stake my life to any of these numbers, but the rough calculations, again, not from my department, salary savings of $284,000. The activity guide, postage and printing savings are about $23,000 for the year. The youth sports will save us about $30,000. Now here it says Teen Leadership Challenge, $14,000. My recollection is we spend a lot more than $14,000, but
It could be an average too.
and maybe there was some sponsorship that offset the overall cost. And the Garden Deli, we're hoping to trim about $15,000 off that, and hopefully keep them solvent for the future, because that's a great little operation. So the net projected savings just on the recreation side, well, I should say recreation and administration is about $366,000. And, you know, I started this presentation saying that
Million.
we were looking at closing facilities to reach our target. And I'm glad to say we didn't close any facilities. On the library side, we did some pretty serious reductions of library hours at the 4 branches. I didn't include it in here because I made that presentation last week to the Board of Trustees, but I have that information if anyone's curious. And so the overall department projected savings is $549,000. So, you know, roughly $500,000. What's interesting about that is if I go to the next slide, if you look at the trend, the bottom line is the important number. The bottom line is we are about, you know, just a hair over $10 million. Even with $550,000 in savings, our budget is increasing. And part of that is we've got a union workforce. We have Teamsters, we have AFSCME, and after going years and years and years with no increase, in fact, actually taking cuts to their salaries, they had some of those cuts reinstated this year, and actually for the first time, I want to say 7 years, we had some raises. So there was a huge fiscal impact for trying to bring our workforce close to the market, and we are nowhere near the market if you look.
The minimum wage increase.
And we had a minimum wage increase,
There's
which
another one
which
coming,
affected us
so.
too. So we had to readjust our hourly rates to, you know,
So is
to
that
prevent
figured into
compaction.
17?
Pardon me?
Is the minimum wage increase in 17 figured in there already?
You know, again, I wish I could tell you the magic behind this. This entire slide was
The
prepared.
finance is doing
Yes,
it. Okay,
yeah.
well, I'm sure they've taken
They
that into
did.
I
consideration.
assume
Yeah.
they did take that.
So
into-
through the chair, we started this conversation and you said we needed to cut 1,100,000. I'm looking, and I know you cut, you know, $549,200. But then when you look at the bottom number,
We've gone up, exactly.
Yeah, but isn't the
Um,
1.1 the library and recreation?
Yeah. Well, but the 549,000
is all of it.
is all of it.
Right, but the total 1.1 million
Right.
was for library and
That is correct.
recreation. So it's half and half, basically.
But still, but the total, the 549,200, that's everything, both, he just
No.
said.
That's only-
It is.
It's library also?
Yes, if I
So
go back here.
he was making us feel happy,
Just
but
on
I'm
the
not happy.
recreation and
happy.
admin side was 366. So together with the cuts from the library, it was 549,000.
We got the brood up.
Which is a huge number, but it's roughly half, almost exactly half coincidentally,
Yeah.
of what our target was. So, no, you raise a good question. The budget isn't solved. The deficit, the structural deficit citywide is not
Still
solved. It's
there.
not going to be solved in library and recreation. It's not going to be solved in public safety or public works. It's cutting everywhere. And if you stay tuned, there will be lots of discussion, I'm sure, in the coming weeks and months about the need to enhance revenues. And, you know, not to bore you with Civics 101 Daly City, especially those who took our Citizens Academy, but, you know, Daly City is very dependent on 2 main revenue sources, property tax and sales tax. And while those are wonderful revenue generators, it's not very diverse. It's been, when it dropped very much during the recession, and it's kind of been flat, whereas the expenditures, pensions and medical are just going through the roof. So revenues are not keeping pace with the expenditures, and that is a problem. So we
Well, and they're
need to
predicting.
diversify the city's revenue sources, and I'm sure there will be talk about what, you know, I don't know what that's gonna be. It could be a sales tax measure, it could be a parcel tax, it could be something that, you know, we haven't yet thought about, but whatever it is, it's gonna be subject to voter approval, and that's always a bit of a gamble. California cities in general have been pretty supportive of revenue, tax-based revenue ballot measures. But, you know, Daly City is different in a lot of ways, so stay tuned to that.
Thank you.
If nothing happens, yeah, we'll be in very big
We'll
trouble.
be having
in a-
different
within a
conversations.
couple of years.
So that was exciting
Yes,
and
and that-
uplifting.
That winds
Well,
up. the
I
presentation.
don't know, you know, what all of you did, but I did watch the budget presentations pretty closely, and it is really very, very scary.
Yeah.
It really is. And I would encourage you to, is it the 23rd, 25th of June?
June 27th, I
They'll
believe,
be
is the
voting
day
on the
that the
budget.
city council will consider adopting the fiscal budget for the next 2 years.
So that would be something I would encourage, not just the five of us, but the entire public to pay close attention to, because it should be.
And you know, to their credit, the public really has probably paid more attention within the last 2 or 3 weeks than I can recall in many, many years. Carol would be proud.
Well, it would be nice if it was on more than just one or two issues and more on an overview. Thank you, Joseph. Any further questions from the commission?
It can only go up, right? I feel so bad. We get 2 new people and they're just going, this is grim. But it's not as grim. We didn't cut anything yet, and they didn't shut the doors on anything.
We're still the commission that gets to encourage fun here in Daly
Yeah.
City, so.
And the nice thing is we have you for I'm really excited at that idea of the tennis, you know, getting new life into it, and you bringing all that knowledge and experience. And your fundraising, I think that's as well.
It could be.
Exciting.
Could be interesting and fun for a while, so.
Yeah, we're always fun. We're always
All
fun.
right, so are there any commissioners' reports this evening?
None from here.
Okay. Announcements?
Okay, I will try to do this quickly. I mentioned before, Junior Giants registration is open, and the program begins for another fun-filled summer on Monday, June 13th. So if you know anybody that is interested, I'll pass one of those around.
Yeah. Very cute.
There is a grant-funded community summer barbecue kickoff, and it's actually with our brothers and sisters with the Daly City Public Library.
Oh, thank you.
That summer barbecue kickoff will be at Gellert Park on Sunday, June 5th, from 1 to 3. And it's summertime and getting the kids out and introducing them to programs at the library primarily, but we're in it all together. So that, and then the summer kickoff carnival at the pool will be Saturday, June 11th. That's the Gmona Pool at Westmore High School. And then we got a whole bunch of summer camps and programs that kick off, actually, June 6th, where the Jefferson Elementary School kids are still in session on June 6th, but the couple of the other districts around us, including South San Francisco, Unipero Sarah School, they are out. So we actually start our summer youth camp a little bit early, or summer youth program a little bit early this year, because of the demand from Unipero Sarah School. So June 6th, and then across the city on the 13th.
So we were fortunate this year to have all of the spring breaks the same week, but we couldn't get the,
Dismissal, no.
couldn't get the dismissal.
And it was actually an issue last year,
Yeah,
and we didn't realize that there was a demand that, because it's, I think it's maybe 1 or 2 schools. But there's enough of them that have no place to go that we, and it's a great training opportunity for staff to sort of ease into summer rather than baptism by fire.
so now it starts June the 6th. What's the last week? There's the differences in the schools going back.
You know what? Teach a chair to fish.
Yes, I know.
Or whatever that
Yeah.
saying is. It's all in here.
Don't feed me, teach me to fish. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Again,
Thank you so much.
Oh, please, thank you.
Thank you.
so what is the last week? August 8th to
Signing
12th.
up for
Okay.
volleyball.
It's a nice brochure.
Well done.
Yeah, you know, and we've been really fortunate to have some really talented hourly, part-time staff that do this, and we lost 2 of them. And the good news is we've had some, you know, they obviously have some talent that have gone on to full-time jobs with different agencies and companies in San Francisco. So
That's
we're a good
great.
training ground, and hopefully we can attract a couple more.
It was like the Warriors used to be. You had a good player, and then they went somewhere else. Now we keep
I
them.
am so done.
Okay, I have no speaker cards, so it looks as though there are no public comment. Our one audience member could be sound asleep. So I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to enter the motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
I'm sorry, aye, yes.
Second.
Second, I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We're adjourned, and we will be back here.